All right, we're live recording, and it's going live on the page. So we're just going to go live, and hopefully this works.
It says live in the
corner.
corner.
It says it's streaming on Facebook now.
Yeah, all right, so the page is loading. Let's see.
It says on mine that we're streaming on Pornhub. Is that weird?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's got it set on Tinder, though?
All right, we're live on Facebook right now. So.
Oh, wow.
What's up, everybody?
Yo.
Hey, who's that?
Go find this video and share it to my page from my band page. So.
Is this on the Minefield page?
No, I'm about to share it to that as well,
okay, cool.
From my page. So.
Fantastic.
Let's see. Trying to, well.
It looks like everybody's checking their messages now.
I'm trying to find them.
Well, I was actually trying to share his thing to my page so they can watch it live.
Yeah,
but,
that's
I couldn't find it. And you know what? I'm just going to hang out with you guys instead.
Exactly, yeah.
Right, yeah.
But isn't that how we hang out now? We're all staring at our phones. And
That's
then like,
true.
Yeah, it's like being
Family
backstage.
Yeah, it is, yeah. I always think it's funny when like you'll watch an entire episode of something and you'll realize I have no idea what was going on because I was answering all these things. I gotta go back and watch the whole goddamn thing again.
Yeah.
all right.
Where is everybody? Where are you, Alex?
I'm in Phoenix, actually.
Oh, cool.
Nice. I'm in Long Island.
Long Island, and then Nashville, and then
I was
Lexington,
Kentucky.
wow,
Kentucky.
And I'm in Vegas.
International.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, cool. Matt should be joining here in a second, and it'll let me know whenever he's going to hop on here. So
He better hurry. There's like 9 songs on this album.
Exactly.
Well, cool. All right.
There it
Well, thank you all
Share.
for joining me and doing this on my Facebook page. This is awesome.
Anytime, my friend.
Yeah,
Are
this
you
is
from
my
the-
favorite Kiss album.
Are you from the future or something? I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, that's where I got that Tesla.
Do they have those
Exactly.
beams where you can just like appear somewhere else?
Dude, if there was, I'm in the wrong business. So.
like the magic power Ace Frehley has in Kiss Meets the Phantom. You just go from here to there.
Yeah, no, exactly. And fucking killer segue. My God.
Yeah.
I think you have to be from Jendel to do that.
There you go. You're
Yeah.
And I honestly, out of all of their powers, I kind of feel like that was the strongest one. Like
Agreed.
being able to like help them jump over a fence or, disappear and
That
appear
was
over
useful,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
What are the other ones? I don't even remember. I mean,
Paul could read people's minds, right?
Yeah.
Well, or like long distance hearing or something. Either one or the other.
He had the eye.
Let's say,
Yeah.
yeah.
Shot a
Yeah,
beam
but
out of his eye.
He could hear stuff from really far away.
Right.
Gene could growl.
And breathe fire.
And
Like
breathe fire.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's okay. But I mean, as far as being, very useful.
No, I think
and,
what did and what like Peter cleaned his genitals. What was his?
I think he had like animal abilities or something weird.
He's
like
doing the real high legs, just lick aggressively in front of everybody.
Mike, did they establish a power for Peter? I
I don't think
they
so. I
No,
think
they were
he-
fighting,
like,
man.
they
That's
would
it.
jump
You don't get
around.
any powers.
They took his superpowers away from him.
Exactly.
I
Ace
do know
gets
that's
no
not.
lines,
Fuck you.
Peter
It's
gets no
not
power.
Peter's voice, right? Is that?
Right,
Is
it's
that?
not
No,
Peter's
it's like very obviously not his
Right.
voice too.
Yeah.
It's actually, that's probably one of my favorite parts of the movie is when Peter would talk and you just hear this insane
Random-
voice coming
Yep.
out of him.
Yep,
Yeah.
Agreed.
I tell you, when you're like 9 or however old I was when that movie came out, none of that mattered. Like it
Not
didn't
at all.
matter. You know, like Yeah.
I'm older than you, right?
a little bit. Yeah, you're not the
Okay.
Matt Starr.
That's in the house.
What's up, dude?
Matt Starr knows nothing about Kiss Meets the Phantom. He has no.
Oh
input
wow!
on
Hey,
it.
look.
You didn't tell him we changed
He
topics
wanted to be on
tonight.
this call. He thought he was clicking into something else, and now these guys.
He said, "These are the ugliest webcam girls I've ever hung out."
I spent
Here we
$20 on this.
Let me see if I can turn this. Get with
Matt,
you guys. Okay, there we are.
Okay, we can talk about Kiss Meets the Phantom later. I guess we should probably talk about Harder Than Hell, which came out 46 years ago.
46
Yeah, or according to my completely terrible post, 43 years ago.
That's right.
So,
Right.
Wow, that was. that was so heartbreaking too, because even as like however old I was, it was just heartbreaking because the magic immediately died when I saw that. For real, for me, I was like, wait a minute, they kind of suck now. What happened?
Well, you were if you were just a little bit older, you were old enough to kind of, what the fuck is this? Yeah. But we were I was the perfect age, dude. Like,
Me
we
too.
were like, these guys are superheroes, and they play music.
I loved it. I loved it. I was 8.
It's
years old. I
actually
loved
one
it.
of my early memories. I was 3, so we went to my mom's friend's house on the street where we lived when I was born. My brother's 6 years older, so they all went trick-or-treating, and I was only 3, so I couldn't go. So I'm there in front of the TV, and that's what's on TV.
Wow. Oh, get out!
Wow.
That's-
Yeah, I feel like if you were old enough to get into Zeppelin and bands like that, then when
Yeah.
Kiss comes around, you're like, no, it's
Yeah.
for kids. But if you're the right age, like me, I was born 1970. Man, Kiss, Star Wars, boom, done.
Yeah,
Done.
100%.
Exactly. 100%.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
Doesn't get it's actually the best, Star Wars, Kiss, all that stuff. That's the best way you could say it, really.
Well, Todd, look, when you joined, Todd, you were all excited showing the guitars. I'm like, Stormtrooper helmet, Stormtrooper helmet.
There's a Darth Vader over there and a bunch of
Nice.
other stuff right here too. And R2D2 is over here, so yeah.
That's the way to do it.
Now,
Yeah.
I can tie those together. So when I was 5, we went to see Empire Strikes Back at the theater,
Oh,
and
shit.
then went to the local pizza place after. Sir Pizza for all of you out there.
Sir
And
Pizza.
I put in Hard Times in the jukebox because it was the B-side.
Yep.
If I was made for
Wow.
loving you,
Yep.
and that was still a current single
Yeah.
Nice.
because I don't think Unmasked was out yet.
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah, that makes
Nice.
sense. Yeah.
Very cool.
And I
So
like
we
that you
talk-
went for the B side. You went to Hard Times.
That's
not-
right.
Yeah, wow, yeah.
And then he goes on to play with Ace Frehley. It's all
Yeah.
it's all up
It
in
was
the
meant to
universe.
be.
Meant to be, exactly.
Yeah. Did we
Nice.
talk about the?
Go on, somebody. Sorry.
Go ahead, Alex.
One of the first records I ever bought with my own money out of my own pocket, the double record Kiss Alive, when it was brand new.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and it was to say it was transformative. To say whatever it did to the walls of my bedroom.
Oh man.
Yeah.
It was absolutely, and I mean, it was so, and so, and Rock and Roll All Night was just a hit single, you know what I mean?
Right.
But still enough where you thought it was like a secret,
Mm-hmm.
even though like you were just like one of like 3 million who knew the secret.
Totally. Yeah.
But before it kind of, and like when Destroyer first came out, like I actually remember I was so like into the Kiss Army and stuff that I actually made my mom call the local radio station and request Shout It Out Loud so there'd be another vote for Kiss.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah,
First-
she did too. Full credit.
First record I bought with my own money was Kiss Alive 2.
Oh, there you go.
I'm still mad about this. So my neighbor, Kurt DeMail, who lived across the street from me, said, "Hey, are you going to get Kiss Alive?" I go, "Yeah, my parents are taking me to the mall." He goes, "Can you get me a copy too?" I said, "Sure." So I go to the mall. I get 2 copies, seemingly the same, put them up on the counter, bring them home, go, "Cool, here's yours, here's mine." Go home, I listen to it, got the book. I'm like, "Oh, cool, rocking out." Next day I go over, I go, "What are those?" He goes, "Tattoos."
Oh,
I go, where'd you get those? He goes, "They're in the record." I go, "What?" I literally go home. I look through every page, take the jacket, flip it. No tattoos.
What?
Oh,
No
man.
tattoos. So then I go back. I go,
Yep.
"I just want the rose tattoo. That's all I want. I don't. So he's like, he goes, "Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think I might want to keep them all and everything." And I'm just like, "You mother." So every day I go over his house and I'd be like, "Hey, what's up?" And I'm like looking at his arms to see like if there's any tattoos. And then like the third day I go over and I look on his arm and it's on his arm, but it's on the wrong fucking arm.
You're like,
Wannabe.
And then And he goes, well, you could have, and he gave me, I think, like the lightning bolt with the drum, and I'm like, yeah, but I don't want that. I want the tattoo. I don't want
the actual tattoo.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So there you go.
Well, it's interesting talking about Hotter Than Hell, because I don't know about you guys, but a lot of my introduction, yeah, exactly. We're not talking about Hotter Than Hell. A lot of my introductions to those songs were actually through the first live album, because in fact, all the first three albums, I was introduced via the live album. Yeah, so it's interesting listening, and I listened to it today, Hotter Than Hell today. Yeah, or that. Yeah, there you go.
That's my original. I got in 76.
Yeah, nice.
That's how I first
I bought that too, yeah.
But it's interesting listening to, because there's a giant conversation about Hotter Than Hell, the actual production of Hotter Than Hell. Like, we can probably go on about this for days, about how it's really dark sounding and really too much reverb. You know how we always have that. But I'm like, again, like Kiss Meets the Phantom, if you're 9 years old or 7 years old or 3 years old or however old, Hotter Than Hell was a perfect album to me. I really don't feel like it. In going back to it now, I kind of feel like it's a great collection of songs. Like, I think it's really a great record overall.
Agreed. No, Rock and Roll Over was my first album. Then, like I was saying, I got the original second. And to me, there was no difference between when I put on Hotter Than Hell, the first Kiss album, or Dress to Kill. Sure. They're all just great albums to me. And, to me, this is probably still 40 years later, my favorite Kiss album. Song for song, Hotter Than Hell. Yeah. Song for song, to me, the 10 songs on the album, I'm going to say are pretty much second to none. And
man, wow. the track list on that is perfect.
There's not a weak song on the album to me. There's
no man, it's real strong. Man, the first two albums are very, very strong. And I don't know, a lot of people complain about the production, but that's like a silly thing to point out or argue about, because that's like the thing. That's the thing. Like, the thing that gives it all the character is I don't like it.
Agreed.
But
that's the interesting thing about
that's the cool part about it,
Yeah, and to this day, you can almost a giant chunk of the first two albums are still songs that they could play live now, and we'd all go like, hell yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Let Me Go Rock and Roll, that's for longest on, that's what they ended the shows with in the 70s.
Yeah.
So
what does it start with? Should we go song by song or something?
All right, let's go ahead and jump into it. I got the CD here, so I've got the track listing.
Yeah, got to choose.
Yeah, got to choose track number one.
You have the compact disc?
I do. I got the vinyl over there, which is the original one, so don't jump my case too bad. So so track number one, Got to Choose. Me personally, this is my favorite Kiss song, is Got to Choose. If I had to choose, that would be my favorite one.
Hey, buddy.
The whole catalog.
It's
Mini Jeremy.
Rory, what's up?
God, he's got a big minute. You don't want to talk.
Yeah, what's his thoughts on Hotter Than Hell?
Yeah, what's his favorite song on the album?
What does he think of the drum sound?
He's about the age. He's about the age his father was when he found Kiss. So I think.
What would he change about the production?
Actually, like, if you do want to get into that, I was younger than him when I found Kiss. So he just started kindergarten, and I used to take Kiss records to kindergarten with me, because you had free time in the morning, and they had those record players that had 6 jacks.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'll be over here listening to Kiss records if you want to hang out with me. Was kind of how that was. Anyway, Got to Choose. I love Got to Choose, man. Like that Ace solo is a composition. That's like a composition.
One of the best.
A composition. Yeah, that's one of his really good ones.
Yeah, Got to Choose. Oh, good.
First
we
are unbelievable.
Me and Ryan and Phil and Christopher did that one and put it out. That's just one of my favorites because there's a lot of vocals.
Yeah, I was going to say, I love the harmonies on it. To me, that's one of the great things about the song, is all the harmonies on it, which is different than, to me, the stuff they did on the first album. It was, to me, shows a little bit of growth from the first. The second album, just those harmonies, I think, are killer.
It's always cool to me too on those records when you can hear Gene's voice on Paul's songs and Paul's voice on Gene. You know what I mean? So that song, because they were really strong, the three of them. I mean, Ace probably carried whatever he carried as well, but those three guys could really sing harmonies well together. Yeah.
Totally.
Well, Ace is actually credited on this album for having background vocal credits. So
Ace?
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure he is, yeah.
Coming Home, Parasite, and I can't remember the other one, but he's actually credited doing backing vocals on this one.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, you hear the Beatles influence with Gene and Paul singing together, but
Totally.
This one I really like because it Gene's singing like Gene.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of crazy or high voice that he can do. And so it's a harmony but it's like it's Kiss. It sounds like Kiss.
Agreed.
Yeah, he's singing in character, but he's singing his harmony, and you can still hear the Gene Simmons character going.
Yeah, which is great. And I would say too, Got to Choose is it could easily be one of my favorite Kiss song, and certainly my top 2 or 3 favorite Paul.
It has that 70s Paul Stanley voice too. That
easily. Yeah.
I thought I heard the nail. That's a really big, really big kind of like. It's one of my favorites because he kind of stepped away from that in the 80s. But when you go back and you listen to that stuff, his voice has just got like that big, huge kind of thing to it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Totally. Yeah. So good.
What's the next song?
Song number 2, Parasite. I'll say I feel like I don't know why I'm looking at that for like the first 3 or 4. I feel like I should be able to rattle those off the top of my head. So,
I should too.
What the hell?
Ace Frehley wrote that song.
Well,
yeah, he played bass on it too.
One of my all-time favorite Ace tunes.
Are you saying Ace played bass on that song on the recording?
Yes.
I did not know that. Wow.
The thing about Hotter Than Hell is, well, really you could include the first album. Was the first Kiss album is literally the only one that they all played their own instruments on every track. And this album, even though this was the only song on the album, somebody did something like that, all of Ace be playing bass on Parasite. It started slowly setting that precedent to where we don't know who's actually doing what on each track. So until now that we got Wikipedia and we can just go look it up in seconds. But
to be fair, Gene was in a Tom Selleck movie that day. So so I'm way ahead of the curve.
That's right.
Yeah. Parasite is just so fucking cool. It's like Parasite, kind of like Parasite Watching You, which is also on this record.
Mm-hmm.
I think that those 2, there's a darkness to those songs. And I don't know if that's the Cream influence. Like, I don't know. To me, there's not a reference point. It doesn't sound like The Who, doesn't sound like the Beatles, doesn't sound like the Stones. It's just weird. And Parasite is such a nasty word. Yeah. It's fucking awesome. Yeah. And to hear Gene, the way he sings it, forget it, man. It's awesome.
Is it kind of like a gang vocal, or Gene and Paul singing together on that song? It always feels like
they do on the second verse.
That's that what it is. Yeah, okay,
Cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that actually.
It's kind of like a Paul McCartney and John Lennon when they would sing in unison.
When we did it with Gene, me, Gene, and Phil all sang those verses together in unison.
Cool.
Nice. Wow. We were talking before, like if you were a certain age, once like Kiss Meets the Phantom came out, you could think it's maybe a little cheesy, but this is one of, to me, like 3 Kiss songs that I say, I don't care what music you listen to. If you listen to rock and you put on Parasite and you say you don't like it, I think personally you're having that makeup bias come in, because this song just friggin' rocks. And this, Deuce, Black Diamond, those 3, you can't like rock music and not say Parasite doesn't kick ass, because it's
dude, that riff coming in,
that riff is amazing, absolutely amazing.
It's a monster.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think the best story I've heard, Jeremy and Phil and all them talk about playing with Gene and Ace was, I think it was Phil that said it whenever Ace came out at the Minnesota gig when you guys first played with him at the benefit. Phil was like, we do Parasite. And he's like, I'm just standing right there next to the speaker. He's like, that's the riff. He's like, that's the guy playing the riff. And he's like, this is almost a religious experience, just hearing that just blasting right there. So that riff, I'm totally on board with you on that. If you're a fan of rock and roll, you have to like that riff. And if not, you're just letting the Kiss thing get in the way of that.
You're not hearing the riff for the makeup.
Exactly.
And that's like Ace way before he was comfortable enough to actually take lead vocal. I mean, I guess he did Cold Gin on the previous record, Parasite on this record. So he always had a really great standout track every time, didn't he?
Yep. Agreed. Agreed.
And I want to give props to Peter too, because he had this way, this kind of Keith Moon thing, but less aggressive, where he could just play a lot of drum rolls, but they were super musical and they didn't get in the way of the vocal, and they supported it, but it wasn't like dun 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 dun. He would do these rolls, but he accented. It's really a cool a cool thing that he does, and he's able to do that. When I started playing these songs, some of them I kind of muscled through it and did some obvious shit, and it was like, this sounds dumb. And I went back and listened to Peter, and I'm like, wow, it's really got a nice touch. And he's not a heavy-handed drummer, so it works because he's busy, but it's not like dominating the track.
Yeah, you're right.
And he does the same thing in the chorus of Got to Choose. You know, he doesn't play drums. He does like
No, he's following the riff basically.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
none of that was like just off the cuff.
Easy for him to say.
Like, you know, that they sat down and like it makes sense that it makes sense because they were there. Oh, my internet connection is unstable. But
That's all right, we can hear you now.
yeah, oh, okay. So I don't even know what I was saying, but
You worded it perfectly, man. There's, yeah.
We got subtitles. It's fine. No, you're right though. That is an interesting. Like it's not like a drum beat through that. He's actually playing the whole accents of the vocal and the guitar. Everything's and the drums are all following the same kind of a thing there. I never really thought of it.
That's one of my favorite things about Peter though, is you can kind of notice it through any of those records that he's on, is he's really good about following the riff. And like Got to Choose, where he's not doing just the 4/4 just straight ahead. He's like the riff and the vocals, he's following those along. And I always thought that was really unique because you never really hear that too much else in other places.
Well,
No, it's like Ginger Baker or Keith Moon. Those were kind of the only two guys that could do that.
No, I'm guessing though that they were really like they orchestrated the crap out of it. So maybe I would say that like where Ginger Baker and Moon would just kind of be like, I don't know if I'm here or falling out of a plane. But I think that it was kind of like, yeah, Peter, and you should do, you know what I mean? Because just those guys are such dominating characters. So I'd imagine that every facet of the thing was choreographed and looked at. So while they weren't particularly brilliant players, although Ace on those first 3 albums, and then the live and everything, but it was like the flame was there, and it was after like the money and everything started coming in. It was still badass, and it still would like make your teenage art come to life, you know what I mean? But there was just something not electromagnetic enough there, you know, somehow.
That's interesting you bring up. It's such a great conversation to have with someone like Ace and go like was that stuff all like super? They just don't seem like the kind of band that sat there stroking beards about like. Okay, well, you got to follow this thing. It feels just so natural. You know what I mean? It wasn't like they had a whole lot of time. How soon after the first album is Hotter Than Hell? It's like 6 months later or something.
Right.
Yeah, it's every 6 months, right?
Yeah,
So
they
some of
recorded
those-
the whole thing in like 10 days, I'm pretty sure. So
Yeah. Right.
Did some of those songs exist from before? Because I know some of the Dress to Kill stuff is like.
Yeah. Let Me Go Rock and Roll. They played, I know, New Year's Eve '73.
Going Blind was written in
Going-
Wicked
yep.
Lester, so
Yep.
that one had been around for a while.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's
And Watching You was on the original demo, so it is definitely a handful of songs on.
Yeah.
Because nobody had enough time to write songs.
So, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Nobody
Exactly.
had time to write anything.
When you listen to the Van Halen records and you're like, you realize there's always some cover songs on every album. They're like, we need to do like 8 songs or 10 songs or whatever. It's like, you can't write that fast usually.
So hey, man, since you brought up Van Halen, and I don't know if we're gonna segue into this in any way later. You know, going back to the production on Hotter Than Hell and people that complain about it. So there's like a category. There's like people that complain about that, people that complain about Diver Down is all cover songs, and people that complain about the White Album should be a single album with all the garbage edited out instead of being.
Well, you go be the Beatles, and you can make that choice.
I don't know, man. Like those people are all in like one group to me. Like they're like arguing. They're arguing against like, you know, the thing that makes these albums like special and unique and perfect.
Exactly. Yeah. They all live on one island together, complaining about these great moments. Yeah.
If only.
Yeah. Well, I have to say I was a complainer about the Hotter Than Hell production because
Really?
I liked it as a kid.
But not when you were like 7. You know what I mean? Like
not when I was 7. Like,
you're like, I don't know about this.
when I got kind of a little sophisticated, I thought.
Sure.
And I'm like, these sounds are this doesn't sound good. Like, I think Dress to Kill actually sounds great. I wish it
Oh,
had a little
I do
more
too.
muscle,
It's very
but
clean.
Absolutely.
it's a great sounding record. And Peter, he's playing his fucking ass off. Like, you
Yeah.
could tell he was just on the road. But now, yeah, of course, the sound of this is dark and
Yeah.
it's amazing, you know.
So
It's perfect.
Is it that it was so dark, which is one of the reasons that this is one of my preferred albums, because it seemed like they got that dark side of what they were selling right, to me, even to this day, on that
Totally.
record. Where I go back and I
Yeah.
listen to it, I'm like, well, they certainly figured out the dark side of it. And it was this record too where I kind of went like, because I'd somehow discovered the Stones from, like, you know, the 15-year-old older kids.
Right.
You know, something fell in my lap or whatever. And that's when I actually, particularly in the background vocals and Gene's bass lines, McCartney as well, obviously, but how Stonesy.
Yeah.
How they were basically just like really distorted Stones in a certain regard.
Yeah,
Totally.
I mean, I felt like they tried to go Sabbath, because it's
Agreed.
Kenny
Yeah.
Kerner and is Richie Wise. Are they both on this? So it's the same.
Yeah.
Same guys
love
from the
that.
first album. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if there's any complaints about the first one, is that it's kind of clean, but they
Yeah.
weren't Kiss yet. You know, they were.
Yeah.
So they
right.
clearly said, let's go this way. And so for that, I'm like,
They
hell yeah.
oversteered.
But man, like, you know, most of us here have engineered some recordings, and when you listen to it, like, how the fuck do you make drums sound like that?
Yeah.
I don't, you know, I know how to engineer, but I have no idea how to make
Did I
drums
have
sound
a
like that.
Coke
Or the
band I
guitar.
forgot
It's like,
about?
it's also weird that it's valuable just because, like, it's
The
so
pain.
unique. Like I said, you don't just fucking throw up mics and get a drum sound like that. Is it unorthodox? Yeah.
But I
But-
mean, like, I would say, like, Destroyer, at least to me, is the most kind of like, whoa, Kiss album. That's just me, right? But the drums on that are an afterthought near enough, sonically, it seems like, regardless of what we thought when we were kids. And then, you know how they remixed it so you had drums in it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever it's called.
Resurrected. Yeah.
Resurrected, yeah. And it kind of wasn't as cool. Now, I don't know if that was nostalgia or whatever, you know what I mean? But
Well, they added some stuff into the songs as well. If you go listen to Detroit Rock City, after that real long break in the chorus, it adds a couple more get up, get downs before going back into the last verse. Which it just, after you've heard the original version a billion times, it just hits your ear weird.
yeah.
Yeah.
Did
Man,
you-
I'm always down for an alternate mix, but I mean, ultimately, I'm going to go back to the original for,
Okay, yeah,
for
same.
whatever
Yeah.
shortcomings it has.
Yeah, but that's also the one they picked. You know what I mean? I trust Steven Tyler to know what the best take for Toys in the Attic was. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly.
For me, the production on this album adds to the whole sound, the whole, like the
Yeah,
next song,
yeah.
the next thing, Going Blind. To me, it had
Yeah.
like such, I remember as a kid when I got this album, I was almost like afraid of that song. It was like, there was something like dark and sinister. And I'm 6 years old listening to this, and Gene's singing about being 93, you're 16, and the
I know.
sound. Like, if this had a cleaner sound, I don't think that song has the same effect to
Would
me,
be
you know?
creepy.
Yeah, it wouldn't be as creepy.
I mean, well,
exactly.
Technology can make, like, okay, let's go back and
Aired why?
What was that about technology?
He said why?
Zeppelin 1. Why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. So, you know what I mean? So kind of it's like, well, there's a reason that the guy chose to paint the painting that way or make the sculpture that way or whatever. And, you know, sure, it might be.
Right.
Exactly.
Couldn't
like
have said that of myself.
Time or his time.
Well,
then.
the thing I love about Going Blind, it is a very strange song. Again, where is it coming from? I don't know what era, what band he was pulling from, but that's a really vulnerable lyric. And you never hear a Kiss song, let alone a Gene song, with a vulnerable lyric. It's like, I'm going blind. It's like, you're 16, this isn't going to work. You know,
Right.
that lyric is really, I love it. And I think there's something, I always, you know, as
Interesting.
much as Gene's bravado and all his stuff is, he's a very sentimental, sweet guy. And
Yeah.
you just, it's in there. You know what I mean? He's not the God of Thunder in that song.
Agreed.
You know,
Yeah.
he's an old man. He's an old man. You know,
Yeah.
which
And
is
then
like
Jeremy,
the antithesis of Kiss.
Yeah, Jeremy, you mentioned before the guitar playing and the solos. So I think Ace has a bunch of great solos on this.
Oh yeah.
The solo on this one is so like, I'll say like a bit more melodic than what I'm used to Ace playing. I think he laid a great solo on
Great
this.
solo.
He did,
yeah.
and we did the song with Gene quite a few times.
Yeah.
I fucking love playing this song.
Mhm.
And as far as where he was pulling from, it's theme from an imaginary western by Mountain. I mean, it pretty much is that fucking song.
Really?
Okay, yeah.
Really?
Wow.
Okay.
There you
Man,
go.
actually, man, all of Gene's shit up through Dress to Kill, man, there's a lot of Mountain in there.
Interesting.
Really?
Wow.
Watching you is Mountain.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Right,
I have to go
yeah, I
back and
kinda
dig into
never-
some of that.
Going
Never
Blind
mind.
has easily always been one of my favorite Gene bass lines, though. Just
Yeah.
Totally.
And I think one of the most impressive things is when you go and the MTV Unplugged really showed it to me, is how he can sing and play that bass line at the same time and just not miss a beat. I know if
Oh,
And he
I was
always
trying to play
shoots up
bass
his
and do that,
body.
it would be a mess.
yeah.
Right, exactly.
He's underrated for that skill.
Well, 'cause he-
100%.
Man, he's fucking great at it. Even like shit he hasn't played in 1,000 years, man. He can pull it out of his ass.
Yeah, I bet.
Mhm.
Not
Like
surprised.
for instance, Got Love for Sale. You know that bass
Oh,
line
that's
is
great, yeah.
Old school disco line.
Yeah.
Man, our first real show, he did it. And
Wow.
Nice.
wow.
That's so cool. Yeah.
I don't
No,
know. Like, you guys know him. I guess a couple of you do. Like him, he always shits all over their music and his bass playing. And I'm like, well, first of all, fuck you, because I believed. You know what I mean? I had to teach him the belt buckle, and now you tell me, give me my $20 back. But you know what I mean? But he's always.
I've always said that about Gene's such an underrated guitar or songwriter.
Deprecating about,
Yeah.
you know, because he always invalidates his own music, and it's like,
Agreed.
you don't understand what your music has meant to me. So by definition, you're fucking wrong. Because like generations of people stood up and went, yeah, rock and roll, exactly, to the extent that the word itself means more than just the band you're seeing. You know what I mean? That's what fucking rock and roll came to be. So it's kind of like, can you just look, you're a really good bass player, you fucking comp great, and you played with Carol Kay, hello, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, so what, she hangs around with shitty bass players, you're saying? You know? But I mean, and it's weird because there was always like an aspect of humility to the persona. You know what I mean? Where I was kind of like, well, wait a minute. This is the guy with the dollar signs on his shoes, and he's all kind of like, oh, I suck. You don't suck. I don't. Although the only time I ever saw that bass line played live from Detroit Rock City is when I saw Phil play it, actually.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I'm sure Phil nailed it. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
I think while we're on the subject of these guys playing with Gene, we have to give Jeremy just the biggest round of applause for having those fucking lyrics in front of Gene every night. So,
Sure.
Well, that was my job. You know, we didn't have any crew or anything, so we all had delegated responsibilities. And no crew. Gene did not have a minder. It was me, Ryan, and Phil. We did.
Did you win by having the best penmanship or something? How'd that work?
It's funny that you all laugh at that, but
I was gonna say.
He's so
Assume-
proud.
I assumed that was the case. Yeah. Because if it was me writing it, you may as well write it in like hieroglyphics or something. Gene would be like, "What the hell?"
Yeah. Is this a Rorschach
man, you know,
test? What
it
is
took
this?
us a little while to figure out our rhythm, but you know, like we all had our tasks. Phil took care of Gene's bass world, in-tune bass, everything's good to go there. I took care of set lists and lyrics, and Ryan did everything else.
Yeah.
And that was a long list, my friends.
I bet.
I think one of my favorite videos of you guys playing with him, I think it might have been in Michigan somewhere. I'm not totally sure, but you guys were doing Domino, and that just whole last section that, you know, the lyrics change every fucking time. But
so
the part where he's like, love to play with fire, and then literally at one point he just looks down and he's like, whatever, bad habit, and then just goes into that. I thought that was fucking great.
So the number of times I would have the lyric sheet down and he would just fucking sing his own thing. That happened a lot. One thing I noticed, and then I heard the demo of Domino from the Vault stuff, is that every night, I would have it right there in front of his face, and he would sing something else. He was singing the demo version the whole time. Even though I've got the album version, like, literally a couple feet in front of his face.
Whatever.
Yeah.
You should have just done whatever is basically the David Lee Roth version of I forgot the fucking word.
Exactly.
What a great bit, though, man.
You
know what I mean?
That's the greatest.
Track number 4, the title track, Hotter Than Hell.
Yep.
So,
That's it's funny because when I read a whole bunch of things about when I watched Paul talk about it, how he was really into free.
Oh man.
And you go, you hear that song your whole life, and then when he says that, you go, yeah, it's totally in there, isn't it?
It's totally in there.
Right now.
yeah.
I'm having that moment.
Yeah. And
same story.
Paul and Ace are playing two different parts that create this weird kind of chord that happens, like the the second chord or whatever it is. It's like they're playing something that's, so my whole life we've been all sort of dissecting, and we play some sort of weird version of it, but none of us are doing it right. I assume you guys have you guys played that song, Hotter Than Hell? I guess I don't know why you would. I
haven't played it with Ace, but I have played it before. And the chord that you are talking about, I did play that wrong for a long time. And then when you learn the right way to do it, I'm like, oh yeah, fuck, there it is.
Yeah, it's not worth talking about on here, but it's like, yeah, it's one of those
there's
weird.
a one note difference on the string, and that's kind of what gives it that tension thing.
It's the same conversation about that opening chord for like Hard Days or something, like trying to figure out what the hell everybody's playing, But Paul and Ace were always really great at that, being able to find these parts that sort of complemented each other and sort of made it a much bigger sounding part than just playing the same thing at the same time.
Yeah. Love Gun being not
Right.
on this album, obviously, but it did seem as though, I would assume for whatever reason, that as they kept going, they sort of developed that even more. The ability to have like in Love Gun, where it's two distinct parts, and I must say, Paul Stanley is definitely a very brave man, because those high-end versions, I wouldn't even play those sitting down in the studio.
Right.
I always liked how Ace would do the kind of like octave playing that you kind of hear in Love Gun and stuff like that.
Totally, yeah.
Is that so? Okay, that'll be Ace, and then Paul, of course, is doing the roots. Yeah, okay, right, yeah.
Yeah, it makes just a big giant chord.
Yeah.
Except for the outro, the
Best part of the song.
That's all, Paul. And it's like, and the song's going along. It's like the best thing ever. And then then they just introduce that whole outro solo section, and you're like, damn, here we go.
Yeah.
They were always so good at. They were always so good at coming up with that other thing that would be like a whole other moment. You know what I mean?
And
One
man,
of my
that solo at the end, I could sing that solo for you right now.
100%.
Well, that's the way most of Ace's solos are, and that's what I love about them. It's they're part of those songs.
Yeah,
So it's not just somebody noodling or something like that.
Man.
Those are as much as part of those songs as Paul's vocals or anything else.
The only tough thing for me about the song "Hotter Than Hell" is I got into Kiss really young, and Double Platinum was like maybe the third or fourth Kiss record that I ever got. So I got that before I got Hotter Than Hell. And you don't really know how to take care of records when you're 5 and 6 years old. There was a scratch right on the gong part. So so
God damn
even
it.
to this day, when I hear that song, I hear that skip.
I have the same thing, dude. When I was a kid, I'd have scratches on records, and to this day, I'll hear that song and be like, "That, I can hear the skip. It's the funniest thing."
Yep. For me as a fan, all through the 80s, Kiss ignored a lot of the makeup songs, right? And 1990, Hot in the Shade Tour, they started to bring some stuff back. And I want to give a shout out to Eric Singer, because 92, they started to bring out a lot of songs from the Hotter Than Hell album that they hadn't played in a decade. And I have to say that's probably the Eric Singer influence, because I know he loves this album. So it was, Hotter Than Hell, Watching You, Parasite, all came back on that tour for the first time in over 10 years. And to me, I remember being at the show and them starting Hotter Than Hell and being like, yes, finally, after like 15 years. It's just, and that whole ending riff, like you guys are saying, just
it's the best.
It's amazing.
I
Absolutely.
love watching Paul with the flying V, and he'd put it up to his
Mhm.
neck.
Yeah,
he's
playing
playing
along.
Hotter than hell, and you're like, what? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Exactly.
We could spend the next 2 hours though discussing which is the better version, Hotter Than Hell or Rip, Rip and Destroy. We could probably talk
Right.
Well, Rip and Destroy is harder because you have to sing the words about that much off the music. So, and one time when Phil and I used to do a Kiss tribute thing, we did Rip and Destroy, and we did
No
sing
way.
the words that much off.
That's great.
We're all
It's the
about
attention.
some authenticity.
It's the attention to detail that I appreciate. And I love how, I like how, one of my favorite things about that is that the evil robot Paul Stanley plays a Gibson Marauder, not the Iceman. And the evil robot Gene plays a Thunderbird bass rather than his, whatever his Spectre thing he was playing. But Ace is like, I'm just going to play my guitar. He's like, I'm just going to play this guitar in both versions, the robot version and the. Now, if no one knows what we're talking about, you probably have to go watch Kiss Meets the Fan of the Park.
Yeah.
You won't regret it.
Or will you?
Or will you? Yeah.
All right.
As long as you were about 7 or 8 years old at the time, or 9 maybe.
All right, jumping over to side 2. Track
hold on.
7 and 8.
Whoa. You're leaving
Let
out
me
the
go
West
rock
Side.
and roll.
Exactly.
Yeah, fuckhead.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Oh, you know why?
Come
'Cause
on,
he's
I'm
got
the one that
he's
said
got the
1974 was 43 years ago. And y'all are, my math skills aren't up to par. Somebody else needs to be delegating this. So
He's got the CD. They're just all in a row.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
the print is literally fucking microscopic
You know
on
what?
this. Like,
That's worth talking about actually, because the album cover artwork for this record was really cool too, and really like the Japanese stuff was very sort of like otherworldly. Yeah, like it's so cool.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's shot by Norman Seeff, who's like kind of a fashion photographer. So I mean, this is the most like, if you ever seen the actual photo of this, it's a gorgeous, silky, beautiful. And these pictures on the back, I mean, to me, this is the hippest. I mean, it's clearly the most art Kiss.
Yeah.
You know, later on that, you know, Destroyer, they're really obvious.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you know,
Yeah, that stuff's really
you know,
cool.
that is outrageous.
Yeah, totally.
That is like
that's
the
even more
sexiest.
outrageous.
Absolutely.
That's just fucking cool as shit.
What's wrong with being sexy?
And then Gene
It's
with
That
it's
was,
amazing.
That was actually my
And
introduction.
anybody that follows all the Kiss groups have seen those outtakes from that photo shoot in the back, and
they're
that's
wasted.
That's all.
Well, the
great.
ones with
Wild
Ace has only got the makeup on half his face because he cut his eye out.
I believe there was some libations that evening.
That record cover was actually my introduction to sexual feelings for those two.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, hopefully the front or the back.
The back. And there's so many words that are not becoming sentences right now. I have to admit.
So Let Me Go Rock and Roll is the closer on the first side.
Yes.
Which is a great classic. I love the outtakes of Gene fucking up the words in that song.
Yeah, and then Paul comes in. Let me go. Like, his intention, like I'll take care of this.
He's like, you got to grab the wheel, or we're going off the road here.
Right.
Man, I'm gonna admit something now that I've never admitted at any podcast or anything.
Uh-oh.
So this is a.
Uh-oh.
I
Front cover.
always skip that song. It never did it for me until we started playing it with Gene.
Oh man.
Convenient.
You know what's so funny?
And then it became one of my favorites. Like
That
love that song.
that
so
song
much
is
now.
one of the ones that on the live album is 10 times stronger than the studio version. I agree.
Oh, dude, and you can thank Ace Frehley for that, dude. Those solos he lays down on that are just great.
There's more guitar solos, extended stuff happening, and all that, and the breakdown type stuff it's way more interesting. But you're not wrong. It might be kind of like
I don't know. Yeah, like it was kind of middle of the road. Like it's not. I don't know. It doesn't have any surprises or anything. I don't know. It's just pretty straight ahead rock and roll. It's not
Jeremy
bad.
Asbrock.
I never hated it.
Yeah.
But
Jeremy
man,
Asbrock
when
will
we
be here to
started-
answer your hate mail after.
when I started playing it live with the guy that sings it, it
Yeah.
kind of changed my whole perspective.
See?
You know, and,
It's one of my favorites now.
and it's funny for me, actually, Todd, I like the studio version better than the live version.
Do you? Okay.
So yeah, I love stuff like the Ramones. I love 2-minute songs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2-minute songs over. Next one. This is the shortest song of Kiss in the studio, right?
Of course.
Take out Fanfare, right? That's not a real song, right? This is the shortest song Kiss ever recorded, and I just love it. Like smacks you in the face. It's so driving. I get why people love the live version. I'm sure people right now listening saying that Brunn is a nut. What the hell, the live version? And I get that. And so, Jeremy, I'm trying to cover the hate mail for you right now. I'm trying
Trying to even it out.
Exactly, but I
That's
love
a brother
the studio
right
version.
there.
I love the studio version.
But I think it's also a good Gene and Paul vocal song too. Like
Really good. Yeah.
Gene's carrying it, but when Paul comes in, it's they just complement each other so well.
Going back to the comment about them always being good about finding that other part of the song, that middle part coming out of the solo, that's all Paul going back into that verse that it only does for that one measure in the song, is one of my favorite little musical parts of Kiss out of their whole catalog. Yeah.
That's rad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the bass solo. It's like a 2-note bass, like an octave bass solo, but it's super cool. Yeah. Hey, yeah, I understand. It's kind of like it is one of those songs that, and I think it was extended live. Well, a lot of their songs started to extend in live setting because they turned them into like concert, show pieces or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to hear Jeremy. Now I'll have to kind of sit back and take a hard look at this because it might be one of those ones that compared to the rest of the record. Because like we were saying before we started any of this, there's a few songs in this record that never got the love that they really should have, and those are probably coming up now.
Side two.
Side two.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Side two.
Starting with "Coming Home." Is "Coming Home"? No, "Coming Home's on the.
Yeah, that's
the
track
9th
9.
song.
Yeah.
That's the 9th song.
Watch
All the way.
Next.
Nope, all the way.
All the way. That's one of my favorite ones, dude. And that's one of the ones that I think is a really underrated song because it was so. It's a great Gene song. I don't know why it was kind of sort of forgotten. I guess because they just had such a wealth of material. But it's.
I
it's a
love
really great
Peter's
song.
cowbell part.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember going to the
Man,
95 acoustic shows that they were doing, and everything was very spontaneous during those shows. And anytime Eric Singer thought of that song, he just hit the cowbell, and I get all excited. That's it. And that was like his cue to the band, like, "Hey, let's do all the way." And you do that.
Dang, dang.
Exactly.
Except Gene wouldn't remember those
Didn't
words.
they do that on the 2004 tour?
Yes, they did for a few shows. Absolutely.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I'm gonna have to go look that up.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, one of my favorite memories is getting an email from Gene to the band in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. "Hey guys, can we do All the Way tonight?"
You're like, what?
Yeah, we can do All the Way tonight.
Nice.
We did that for a while.
So cool. Yeah, that was the coolest thing about your guys' set list was it was just like, what? Like it was as if you asked me personally, what would I like to hear? And I'm sure every one of us feels the same way. Like almost human. What?
I did like that. I did like changing the set list up every night. There was, I don't know, there's a certain amount of bravery involved, especially on his part, because like being around Phil and Matt and you, and we sat around and listened to this shit, but like they don't sit around and listen to fucking Kiss.
No. My friend Zach Throne tells a story about being in the studio when they were doing the Kiss My Ass record. Anthrax was doing, what did they do?
Did they do Parasite?
Parasite or Watching You or something like that. Yeah, I think it was. They did it in F sharp. I always remember that being strange. Like it's supposed to be in G, but
I
anyway,
think they did She, right?
She, that's what it was.
And
I remember Zach was playing. You'd just be sitting there playing guitar, and Gene and Paul were there, and Zach's fucking really invested, like all of us, and he's like just jamming songs, and Paul was like toe to toe, like, but Gene would be like, "Is that on?" He wouldn't even know what album the songs or like whatever they're on. He was like, didn't know which, And Paul was sharp. He's like, "No, that was Dress to Kill," or whatever. He would correct him. Like
Nice.
the old married couple that they can be sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Track number 7, Watching You. Let's start off with Mr. Matt Starr. Let's hear what you got to say about this one.
Well, this one was I'm partly responsible for it being in the Ace set because my first rehearsal with Ace, we did a couple songs, and then he goes, I think we did What's on Your Mind, and he goes, we need a heavy song after that. And I said, I didn't even talk to him at all. I just said hi, and I said, what about Watching You? And he just went, boom, he just went right into it.
No way.
And when it came to the verse, he like looked at me. So I'm sitting there singing.
Nice.
And we got like halfway through it. Like the rest of the guys, not the current lineup, the other guys didn't know it. We got through most of it, but anyway, it stuck. We ended up doing it for a short time, and then it came back around, and now it's been in the set for
Yeah, I was
for a while.
at the Whitesburg show whenever you guys did it for the first time with Jeremy and them in the band. And I will say that was absolutely the wildest I got all night was when that guitar riff kicked in, because I had been looking at your guys' set list coming
Matt, I
into
think
that,
that was
and
the
it
first
wasn't on
time
there
we
at all.
had done it, wasn't
Yeah.
it, Matt? Because that was the show where we did some new stuff. Because that was the one where we did Strutter at sound check, and
Yeah,
he came up right when we were doing that. So Watching You got added at that show.
it was
Wow.
that one. Okay, yeah.
It's
Yeah, because I
great.
remember asking you about it after the gig. I was like, dude, Watching You, that was fucking great. And you were like, yeah, Ace just came to soundcheck today and brought it up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, fucking great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
There's a lot-
awesome, though.
There's a lot of orchestration to that song too. It's a pretty long form, and that middle section, the solo and stuff. That's something about Kiss. That's
Parasite.
Parasite.
That's
What's the middle
Parasite.
part? Oh, I know what it is. In Watching You, there's down, down, and
That's
then
the awesome harmony that's going on right there. Yeah, that's fucking killer
That's what it
harmony.
is. Yeah.
And just
Really-
think about the sheer amount of unbelievably cool flatted fifth riffs those guys came up with during that
Yeah.
period. I mean, it's just one after another where it's like, oh my God, and like even humming it, you get a chill. You're like, oh my God, electrified through an amp. This would be amazing right now, you know?
Yeah.
Totally.
And maybe even this album in particular kind of has like the most of those sort of like, oh my God, what a riff. You don't always remember them as being as great as they are, but then you hear them like you just sang that riff. And I'm like, oh my God, that's such an unbelievable riff. But all the way down the record, you know what I mean? It's just like they were thinking of this shit like 24 hours a day. That's the only way, you know what I mean?
Totally. That's
The
one of the
part-
things we convinced Bruce to do it on the last cruise.
Mhm.
Bruce is always reticent to do like anything I didn't play on that song. We're always like 1,000,000 to 1, or we try to dig deep. He's like, I didn't play on that song. But then I go, we're always pushing to do something a little different. And he goes, hey, Watching You was on Kiss Alive 3.
Mhm.
Boom.
There you go.
And then that was all took, yeah.
Nice.
Although Bruce
And
does a solo in his own way.
I love I'm a sucker for single note riffs.
Yep.
So chords
Yeah.
are cool, but there's just something, like Supernaut by Sabbath. Just it's so fucking evil, and Parasite's got that, and Watching You's another one of those. And that's, I really hear like bands they'll say who they were, into, they'll give, cool references, but they'll never say who they actually pulled shit from. And
Yes, right.
I hear the Humble Pie thing. Like when I heard Humble Pie live at the Fillmore, if you guys, I'm sure I'll have, but if anyone never heard I'm Ready, the blues cover, and they each sing a verse, and when Greg Ridley,
Right.
the bass player, comes in and sings, I've been drinking gin, I'm like, it's Gene. That's the fucking
Yeah,
Gene
totally.
vocal.
Totally,
But they would
yeah.
play riffs where the bass would play the exact line as the guitar, rather than like the Geezer Butler where you kind of play around it. So to me, I hear a lot of Humble Pie in that song.
This
Nice.
song is Never in My Life by Mountain. I mean, it's almost the same fucking riff.
Yeah.
Wow, really? I've got to get down with that. I always thought
Yeah,
it was
really.
pretty.
Exactly.
I always thought it was so Sabbathy, but now that you just mentioned it, I bet you.
It's never in my. It's never in my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have to check that out.
Well, it's killer track off the new Ace record, and we got to give Matt Starr props for that. That is probably my favorite song off Origins, too, because of Matt's drums on that. I'm a sucker for cowbell. So just
Totally.
Matt, just
Corky
dude, that
Lang.
is fucking great on that. That is
Yeah.
kudos on that, man. As far as watching you goes, there's a part in this that I've heard people say different opinions on this part, and the part in the second verse, the "I'm trying not to stare" line.
Mhm.
That to me, that has to be Paul Stanley doing that. You can hear the change in the voice, but then
No,
I hear other.
No, that's Gene.
I think that's
it's
Gene.
Gene.
Yeah, that's Gene.
It's
Dude,
actually Gene.
I
In fact,
swear,
if you go back-
it
if you go back
sounds
and
so
watch
much
any-
like Paul.
If you go back and watch any video of us doing that song and he does that, he always goes,
Mhm.
Is that another unison verse in that song though? I'm standing here.
yes. Actually, and that's another
Second
the second
verse, right?
verse. Yeah, we always sing that with Matt. Matt does the first one alone, and then the second verse we sing. Yeah, that's how they do that.
Man, I would put all my money on that being Paul singing that line by himself. That's
Brandon, do not put all of your money on that.
That's a bad idea, man.
But
No,
Paul,
that's
even
nice.
Paul didn't sing those kind of high notes back then. So when Gene throws down like that, it's no
Yeah.
joke. Like Gene can
Yeah,
throw down.
exactly. And
Yeah.
he can still do it.
Yeah, he can. Well,
I think
Yeah, he does because he goes.
Literally only do that.
I think to me, one of the amazing things with this song is they recorded it in '73 on the original demo, and I'd love to know
That's right.
why they left it off the first album. You know, the first album originally only had 9 songs on it, right? Kissing Time wasn't on it.
I'm just saying they had to have those gems on there. So.
Somebody decided
didn't
this
have,
wasn't
they
good
didn't,
enough.
they didn't have much power. That was probably a producer call.
Probably, but who thought this wasn't good enough, right? It's the same producers.
now is that a Gene Simmons credit writing wise, or is that a Gene
Yes.
Paul?
No, I think it's only Gene.
Just Gene? Okay.
I think so.
There's somebody else's writing credit on as well, but it was somebody from the Wicked Lester camp.
Steve Cornell.
Did Steve Cornell
Yeah.
right on this one?
I'm
Going Blind,
pretty
I think
sure.
that is. Going Blind, I think it's Cornell's on that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Going Blind, not this one.
I
Yes,
think
so
okay,
Going
I
Blind and
understand.
She. Going Blind
So
and
then
She are the 2 songs they co-wrote.
Which are all Wicked
He as
Lester
well?
ideas.
Did you say she?
She
Yeah.
and Going Blind with Cornell wrote with Gene, yeah.
Which
Didn't
when
she-
you guys
those
played
were-
in
she's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Didn't
when you
she
guys
have
played
a
in Whitesburg,
flute?
they had the She Wicked Lester version blasting over
Hmm.
the PA. Like
Really?
right,
Really good?
it was like right before the storm came down because me and my buddy that I was there with, he's like, "Hey, they're playing She," and I'm listening to it, and we're like way far off from the speakers, and I was like, "That sounds like the fucking Wicked Lester version." And sure enough, we keep getting closer, and they're blasting the Wicked Lester version.
Which is like
Right.
a Jethro Tull song or something.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
there's like flute in it. I'm pretty sure,
Exactly,
actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
And then is that
Wow.
when the storm? That's when the storm came.
Yeah, and then just
So right. So,
about
so God. Yeah. So God was like, I thought I broke this fucking band up in '72. Why am I hearing this song?
That's when Stonehenge came down.
that was the timing on that storm was so insane that night because it was like when as soon as that opening band hit that first note, it was just like just
no.
fucking everywhere. And
That was part of their show.
yeah.
Right.
It was
Oh yeah.
We lost
very
it.
expensive too, from what I hear. That's why they never toured it.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to bring around an actual storm, you know.
That's
tough.
You don't want to miss this.
A full fucking weather machine out in the football field. Yeah.
Right. Seeding the clouds and shit. It's expensive.
And they had planned that as part of Kiss World with the Dynasty tour. They were actually going to seed the clouds, but instead of rain, it was going to be Kiss logos, but they were razor sharp.
Exactly. Yeah.
Dean was
Yeah.
like, no.
Yeah. The lawyers got involved. It was like.
We're talking
All
about
right,
Kiss.
next
You wanna say
track.
anything
We're
about
on
Kiss?
to the Peter Criss vocal, main line.
Yeah.
As
Where
written
do you
by-
guys personally put this in Peter Criss's catalog in Kiss as far as his lead vocals go?
This is a Paul Stanley song, technically, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, Paul wrote it. Yep.
Interesting to imagine if Paul actually sang this song, how much different it would be.
No, I love Peter's vocal on this, and it's interesting. I remember being at a Kiss Expo in like '93 or '94, and Peter was the guest, and they asked
wow.
Peter, if you could re-record one song, what would it be? And his answer, he didn't hesitate. He goes, Mainline. I'm not a fan of that vocal. I would redo that vocal. And I was like, What?
Really?
Yeah.
I love it.
What's your problem?
No,
Yeah.
what's the problem? It's a great freaking vocal. Great vocal, you know?
Yeah, I know, right?
I'd love to hear him sing it live because I think, it sounds, I love his voice in this song. It's so
Peter
great.
doesn't really have a bad vocal as far as I'm
Agreed.
concerned. I
I
think he
agree.
always sang great. Yeah.
Do you guys think it's just like, oh, did I just disappear? Am I
Matt
back?
just, oh, there he's back.
No, I just got a call.
Oh, I thought you went on vacation for a moment.
Yeah, it was.
It was
It was a
Peter.
moment vacation.
It was Peter Chris.
It was Peter.
Someone's
get
talking
on the
about
link.
me. Yeah.
What that guy say about me?
You guys think, because like Gene in particular always seems to be crapping all over Peter's singing. Now I listen to the thing and I'm like, what do you mean? He's kind of like the Roger Taylor, Rod Stewart guy in Kiss.
Peter's
I
vocals are
I
great.
love
And
Peter's
And the
vocals.
records sound good. And you. So is that just politics and then being like, oh, and you can't sing and the wife
Absolutely.
is short?
No, I've heard Bob
politics.
Ezrin address this too. We hear what they kept in the end, and Peter
Sure.
does have good tone, but I don't know how many takes those guys sat through to get that keeper.
Oh,
Sure.
yeah.
yeah, but one thing I will say though, like listening to all their records is what, like Eddie Kramer on the Eddie Kramer records, like I don't really love Eddie's vocal sounds that he gets. But when it's Peter on all Kiss records, no matter who the producer, that's a single vocal. It's never doubled. And usually you
Interesting.
double because it's like, that's one.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Let's double it. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Peter, no, single. And dry. More
Yeah.
usually drier than the
Yeah.
rest of the which I think that speaks because that's a producer call,
That's
I
an
really
interesting.
don't have one of those Peter songs that I wouldn't like, jam hardcore. Like I'm a pretty big fan of most of the Peter songs.
Me too.
If I really had to choose, and it's honestly
Got
out
to
of
choose.
any of if out of any of their lead vocals, if I'm ranking them off of Psycho Circus, Finally Found My Way Back to You, that's probably towards the bottom of my entire Kiss catalog. But Peter still sings it great. You can't. It's not knocking the performance. It's just the song itself that you could tell they were totally going for like Beth Round 2 on that.
Yeah,
So,
right. They should just
Exactly.
called it that, yeah.
No,
Because
to me-
it had every like, okay, here's Shock Me Round 2, you know what I mean? It's like everything that you want from us.
Pretty
And,
much, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, one of
It's
the things
just-
I love. Oh, sorry. One of the things I love about this song, and Matt, I'd love to hear what you'd say about this. The drumming in this, I love his drum playing during the solo. It's not just like a simple beat. He's like playing all these like little fills, and even during the choruses, he's like ba ba main line.
Yeah.
Like I love the drumming in this song, even as simple as it may be. I love it.
It also has a great
Yeah.
outro again. That's another song with an outro. That, like it's like the closing credits kind of come up or something. And Peter tears it up at the end too. A couple of those kind of roles, he's kind of doing his thing. Yeah.
They were so awesome at that too, where you do get this thing which logically now we're like, oh, of course that's how this.
It's always when it gets interesting that we lose them.
Whenever he uses his hands.
Song
like-
goes. As far as constructing, like what's happening that I don't know about right now. And I lost my train of thought as a result. So anyway, that'll teach you.
Sorry.
How dare you elaborate?
That's all right. We'll go we'll get somebody to dub your speaking lines whenever you cut out.
We'll get the guy who did the
Did Peter's voice, yeah.
If he does it for $50 an hour, I can't lie. Peter, come on out and say hi to him. Your Bible. But they were, I do remember actually now, but as far as that thing where they would add another part that makes total sense.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And She being a prime example where it's kind of like, what the, like when you learn that song, first of all, it's like, there's 700 parts to this.
Yeah.
And they're all slightly different, which is another thing they did and started redoing on Revenge, where it was like, what do you mean there's a bar of 5 in the solo?
I know, right?
I got to learn this. Matt's singing it, and I know how he looks at me when I blow it.
Yeah, Kiss would do that. That's from, we would do that jam night in Hollywood, and it was always Ramones, Motorhead, and Kiss were the songs that people go, yeah, no, I got it. And I'm like, do you?
You don't got it.
Because there's going to be
yeah.
some little band-ism somewhere in that song, and if you don't I know it because I grew up on it. But if you didn't learn the shit out of it, and you're just up there and you've played through it that day,
No,
you might miss it. You know.
I remember laughing hysterically at many very talented, proficient, brilliant guitar players fucking up Ramone songs.
Oh yeah,
Like,
dude.
you know, well, I don't know what they taught you at MI, but I know it wasn't Shino's.
I might have went if they taught that. There's Johnny Ramone right there. That's Johnny Ramone right there.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
Nice.
The what, for a real one of his?
No, it's a knockoff they did, but it's a fake Mosrite, but it's the exact same spec, so I had to buy it.
I got an actual Mosrite here with a Bigsby, I believe, on it.
Oh, cool.
Which, exactly. I didn't even know, but
A friend of mine was a massive Ventures fan. Like, he was like really into those guys, and he went to like a signing thing because they're like old cats. You know, I don't even know who's still around, but and he goes to the guitar player guy. He goes like, because he had the Ventures models of the Mosrites and all. He goes, the bummer was that they're like playing like PRS and shit like that in the 21st century. I go, well, you know, and he goes to the guy, he goes, whatever happened to all those Mosrites and stuff, dude? And he goes, well, those things never stayed in tune. Those things were terrible. And you're like, but those things were dope. Those badass surf guitars. Come on. Yeah. That's what this is about, right? We're talking about.
Yeah.
It was like the Ramones, the Ventures, and we're out. Like,
on to the next track. Coming Home. Mike, you want to start this one off since you were talking about watching them do this in the 90s when they brought it back.
So, you know, I was saying this to a couple of you guys before we started. So growing up in the 80s, I was in high school. And whenever I was in class and I was bored to death, what would I do? I'd pretend to be taking notes, and what I'd be doing really is making my top 20 Kiss song list, right?
Yeah.
It would look like I'm taking notes, and I'm like, song number 20, song number 19, right? So that's what I did all through the 80s. But always my number 1 or number 2 song on my list was Coming Home. In the 80s, and to this day, I still love this song. But my Kiss fan friends would be like, what song is that? Like, this is, you know, before they ever did it with Unplugged and all of that. And I love this song from back then. And I remember in 95, I think it was February of 95, Kiss was out in Australia doing stadiums or arenas, but then they were also in hotels doing acoustic shows. It was their first ones. And I heard from somebody that they tried and attempted Coming Home. Well, I went nuts trying to find that bootleg tape. I was like, that's my all-time favorite Kiss song. They actually tried to play it. So for me, it's pretty amazing now that, you know, fast forward all these years later, and it's the staple for anytime they do an Unplugged show. It's the opening song, and I never get tired of it. They could play that song, I think, 20 times in a row in an Unplugged show, and I'm like, every time, easily one of my, to this day, one of my top 5 Kiss songs.
It's another example to me, too, of the underrated rhythm guitar ability of Paul Stanley, and I think it's rhythm guitar players always get overlooked. The Malcolm Youngs, and again, Malcolm is the secret of that band too. Keith Richards, you know, those kind of. So Paul Stanley always has those kind of Keith Richards-isms in there that he can do, and he builds an entire song around it. So so a song like Coming Home, and even like Got to Choose, glan, 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 those are some weird like inversions that you not normally heard. But Coming Home definitely has like a Stonesy kind of moves going on, and he just built a great lyric, you know. And it's so funny because it's like living on the road, that whole thing kind of has that room service kind of vibe to it too.
Right.
It's like,
Well, that was also part of the entree. Like they were so like, because I'm sitting there and Jeremy, and you're going, oh yeah, it's exactly this Mountain song, and I'm going, why didn't I really get into Mountain then? You know what I mean? And it's exactly like this. Humble Pie was the other one. Was that?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, all right, well, I liked it, I guess, but why didn't I get it into it the same way? And like this album is, because it was really, if you think, at least in my world, it was the first time where that portal to another dimension.
Right.
Like they knew that they had access to building that portal. So you get the Dark album, they were kind of sort of heading in that direction. Maybe we do this and that's how the portal will work. But look at all the song titles, Parasite, you know what I mean? It's all kind of like music titles you'd see on the wall in an insane asylum in a Wes Craven.
Japanese writing on the cover and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it made it very otherworldly, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
I just
kind of always wondered what was Ace's contribution, because Ace has a co-write on this song.
Yes. I'm glad you brought it up. Yep.
I'd love to know what Ace contributed to the song.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you
The
go ahead?
interesting thing about this, I thought, was that it's that part after the chorus is kind of unconventional with how long it is instrumentally going back into the bridge again.
That descending
Oh,
bang,
Yeah,
bang,
it's
bang, bang.
it's pretty long for the it's like right in the dead center of the song, you know.
That song almost
So-
feels like something that Bob Ezrin would have really wrapped his head around for the next, the Destroyer record, because a lot of that descending stuff reminds me of like "Do You Love Me" and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
That would come later on. Yeah.
That's actually very Ace, because he's got
Yeah.
one of those on his solo '78 record, and then there's other songs.
What's
we've
on your mind?
Mhm.
Yeah, and there's other stuff that we've recorded, and I think some made it to the record. But he don't, and he starts playing. I go, okay, I know what to do. You know, like
Mhm.
so that I think that's that. I don't know for a fact, but that's one of his things. So that maybe that is what he contributed.
There you
That's what I
go.
would guess.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because to me, again, it's been one of my favorite Kiss songs for 30 years. So I'm always listening whenever they talk about this song. It's the only song in the entire catalog that Paul and Ace wrote together, and yet neither
That's
one
right.
of them could remember how they wrote it together. I don't understand that.
Wow. That's so
Really?
weird, right?
Yeah, it's literally the only song in the catalog. I mean, Rock Bottom, Ace did the intro, Paul did the main part of the song. So that to me doesn't count. This is the only real song they wrote together, and neither one of them can remember what they contributed.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so strange. It's another one of those songs that, like All the Way, or it's just another one of those songs that I think that the fact that it didn't end up being played live until, at least as far as I know, until the Unplugged stuff, was
Mhm.
always sort of a missed opportunity to me, because it's like
Agreed.
I always thought these was really strong songs.
Agreed. 100% agree.
It was Mike Brunn's favorite song, everybody.
It was,
Come
I
on.
don't know why they didn't just ask me. Is what they would, they should have put it in the Asylum set list.
Exactly, yeah.
No, All Night or Coming Home. I'm going with Coming Home.
Well,
Sorry.
exactly. It could have been like brought out on, I could have seen them doing it on like Hot in the Shade when they really started to kind of embrace the old catalog. Yeah.
Agreed. But it eventually made it, so I'm happy. I'm satisfied.
Exactly.
And it was a perfect way to start that Unplugged show too.
Absolutely.
It really was, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you know,
Coming home.
yeah, exactly. And I'll say this one last thing. I've been on most of the Kiss cruises, and Kiss Cruise 5, a lot of fans don't realize this, Kiss actually performed the entire Hotter Than Hell album over 2 different shows, right? They did
Wow.
the songs in the live, and then the Sail Away show that year was electric. And hearing Coming Home Electric to me was, again,
I bet.
Nice.
dream come true.
Yeah.
Dream come true. But it's the only album they've ever done in totality during one of the cruises.
Well, they did like they
I'm
did
a
2
geeky
songs
fan,
off
I'm
this
sorry.
album within the first 3 songs of the Unplugged set. They did 2 songs off Harder Than Hell. They
Yep.
started with Coming Home, and then Going Blonde was the 3rd one after
That's
Plaster
right.
Caster.
That's right.
So
But
a
Going
good-
Blind is, so it's really great acoustically too. It really
Mhm.
works, yeah.
Yeah.
And going back to Gene Flubbin vocals, he messes the vocals up on Unplugged, Going Blonde in the very first verse.
Amazing.
Why do you think I had to make out those lyric sheets?
Where were you, Jeremy? Jeremy was still in high school at that point.
Exactly. You should have caught a flight to the MTV studios.
Actually, I wasn't.
Neither
I
was
wasn't
I.
even alive yet when Unplugged happened, if you want to put that into perspective.
Oh,
Oh, my
shut up,
God.
Brandon.
How's that even
Oh.
physically possible? What are you, a psycho?
My mom was pregnant with me whenever Unplugged happened, but I had
Oh.
not made my grand appearance yet.
I was
so-
already
Wow.
I was already 53 years old.
Yeah, exactly. I know, I was gonna say, I think I celebrated my 70th birthday that year.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Oh,
I was
I
gonna
used
say
to
you guys
gauge,
might
like-
actually have been older than I am now when Unplugged came
All
out.
right.
Why do you have
Okay.
all of a sudden?
Let's talk about
Not
the
everybody
old-
just
What happened
disconnect.
to you when you're our age.
Suddenly Brandon's talking to himself.
that's right.
We'll look at the record. Bye.
Well, I would gauge, like when I would meet a girl and I go, oh, would talk, how old are you? And I go, oh, I was born, 75. I go, oh, Kiss Alive. Okay.
Yeah.
And it would be
Kiss
like, oh,
Alive years,
77. Okay. Yeah. Love Gun. And then it was like, okay,
Okay.
they had taken off the makeup at that point, and it got, and when it got, into like, Yeah,
Psycho
when I started putting
Circus.
the makeup back. I gotta get married. This is getting weird.
There's a great
As
part
good
of
a time as any.
there's a great part of the book, Chuck Klosterman's Fargo Rock City, it's called. He has this great chapter where he equates all the 4 major loves of his life, these girls that he, of his early loves, he equated them all to the Kiss solo albums. Like, She Was the Paul Stanley solo album. And it was like so brilliantly well written that you were like, you totally understood what he was saying. The Peter Criss one, the Gene Simmons one's way more experimental. It's like, it's so brilliantly written, as a music nerd. It was just like,
I gotta check that out.
yeah, I recommend it. Yeah.
Was the Peter Criss one when he was going out with the MILF or something? Maybe?
I don't remember exactly, but yeah, it's a big on ballads somehow. I don't know.
Yeah.
Many ballads.
Yeah, it wasn't what he expected.
No.
All right, final track on the album.
We're already there.
Ways. Yeah.
Strange
Yeah.
Ways has a Sabbath-y kind of stuff going
Yeah,
on.
it does. Yep.
I just from me assuming, I would say that I don't know which song came first, Parasite or Strange Ways.
Both
But
Ace Frehley songs.
They totally had to play off of each other because that Strange Ways riff is kind of the verse in Parasite. So I feel like maybe one day he was sitting around and played that riff a little slower or something like that. But it's kind of in the same ballpark right down there. So I would assume that these kind of went hand in hand together.
Mm.
It's
Well,
another one of
Jeremy's-
those ones, Matt can comment on this, because I think the drums are super heavy on that. The intro area, the big tom stuff is like really cool, like very unusual. It's more Eric Carr than it is Peter Criss.
Yeah, very much so. And again, but he down he gets that little rock and roll
Swing
thing
in there, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good, and it's back too. It's you play it back. If it's too fast, it loses all the power.
Totally.
And Jeremy does a great job singing this one because Jeremy sings this one live.
Nice.
And man, that's kind of like one of the weird things about this song. I always liked it a whole lot because it's so weird. But when it wound up being my song, it's my song in the set. Like I never in a million fucking years could have guessed that Strange Ways would be my song and Ace
Singing it next to the guy who wrote the song, too. That's so cool.
I mean, like after we all started playing together and I started singing it, the song had a whole different meaning and vibe to me. So
that's amazing. Again, Peter Criss sings the shit out of that song.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, there's a great clip from the 90s of Peter coming out and doing it with Ace's band, and he's just singing it, and I fucking love that
Did
clip.
anybody else see that tour?
Yes.
Yeah, I did.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, right
I
here.
saw that tour.
Front
here.
row.
Yes.
You talking about the Bad Boys tour in the 90s? Yeah, that was a great.
That was
Carl Cochran playing with it was Carl
That was the first
Cochran,
time I saw Ace.
Richie Scarlett. I think me too, actually. I think me too. Yeah.
Who was playing bass with Ace during that time?
Carl Cochran was playing the night
Okay.
song.
Carl Cochran.
And who played drums on that?
Was that Jamie at that point?
Not
No. Was it Sandy Slevin maybe?
Maybe.
Can't remember.
Yeah.
I've seen videos from that tour of them doing "Love Her All I Can," which is top 3 Ace solos for me.
Mhm.
And the
Yeah.
bassist was singing that, and I thought he did a pretty good job of holding
That
that
was,
down. That's one
oh.
song I really wish Ace would just pull out because man, that solo is just
I've
fucking
tried.
great.
Did we not do that? Have we not done that, Jeremy,
No,
with this
we haven't.
lineup? Because we used to do
so-
that when I started with
So
it.
it was actually at the Whitesburg show. That was where we sound checked all that stuff, and "Lover All I Can" was on the list. And now he's just like, let's do watching you. And
Love Her All I Can was
fair
also
trade.
that was also a Wicked Lester song, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yep.
yeah,
Hmm.
Wow. Oh.
But the
I
guitar
would
solo
love
in
to do
Strange
that.
Ways, the guitar solo in Strange Ways is badass.
That's
too.
man.
one of Ace's best in my opinion on
Yeah.
that. I love just that giant fucking bend on the low string coming
Totally,
into that, man. It's
very Tony Iommi
Yeah.
meets something. Yeah.
yeah. I'd never thought of it like that. Yeah, I can hear.
So how
that
many
totally.
songs on this record are on Kiss Alive, the first Kiss Alive?
Got to Choose is on there. Parasite, Going Blind, Harder Than Hell, Let
No,
Me
Going
Go.
Blind's not on there.
John
Going
Blind.
Blind was it not on the first one?
No.
Yeah,
okay.
five of them.
Five
are on
songs, yeah.
Kiss Alive.
Five.
So that's half the record.
And the first album's way more. Like way more of the first album is on the live album. Like I think
Yeah.
well, I don't remember exactly how many, but a lot of them are. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hell,
Oh, wait,
a
Mike's
lot
doing
of
the
the first
math.
album.
Yeah,
How many?
no,
Carry the
Can you-
One, divided by
Yeah.
two.
Well,
Actually, it's pretty much the whole record
it's
except
7.
"Kissin' Time" and "Let Me Know"
exactly.
And
Yeah.
Love Theme,
Really?
right? So I think
And
it's
Love
7.
Theme.
and "Love Theme."
So I
Yeah.
think it's 7 songs.
Well, that
That's
whole
a
first
lot,
record
dude.
is on most of the live albums.
Yeah.
You go to Live 3, there's a couple tunes on there. You go to
And rightly
Live 4,
so.
the Symphony, it's on there. So, that's Todd. You say that all the time. That first album is just full of songs that are still. They could play them at any time now, and most people, even the diehards and the casual fans, are going to be like, "Fuck yes, this is what I came here to hear." So,
Well, yeah, I think because of the Kiss Alive versions mostly, but it's very, very interesting to consider they were 3 albums in, but they're still playing 7 songs, like 90% of the first album live. Because
Yeah,
Dress
but
to Kill.
that was only a year and a half later.
Yeah, that's true. 3 albums later, it's like that was 2 years. That was a year ago. Yeah.
Right.
That's so funny. Why
If you want to get technical, like it was only a year because the first album came out in February, and they were touring Dress to Kill, which was what they were recording for a live, starting in May. So it was like a year and a couple months.
Yep.
crazy. It's still crazy, right? Back in those days, they would, bands were knocking out 2 albums a year half the time. Like
AC/DC.
Aerosmith, their first 2 records both came out in '74 as well.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's a very busy year.
They didn't actually play on the second album.
Man, '74 is like my go-to year for records because you had some really great debuts come out. You had the Aerosmith record and Get Your Wings, which is my favorite Aerosmith record. And
yeah, that's a classic.
Rush's first record came out in '74 as well.
That's the one they didn't play on. Yeah. Hey, let's go back to St. Louis for this one.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like Dick Wagner and Steve Under playing guitar on those records or something.
Yeah.
So it's not really an Aerosmith album.
Oh yeah, Train Kept a Rolling. That's like neither Joe Perry or Brad Whitford on like most of that song.
By the ratio of putting out 2 albums a year, how many albums would they have made during the making of? By that ratio, how many records could have been made during Chinese democracy?
Yeah.
They could have broken up and
842.
reunited.
A lot of records.
Well, yeah. No, I did the math on that. You can fit 2 Beatles careers in the time it took to
Today's actually the anniversary of them announcing
2 Beatles
the
careers.
official release date for Chinese democracy.
Every day was the official release date for like a decade.
This was the date that Dr. Pepper lit the fire under Axl's ass and was like, if you don't get that album out, we're giving everybody a Dr. Pepper's. That's what it was. So,
wow, I had no idea.
There was an actual thing. In 2008, Dr. Pepper came out and they said, if Axl Rose puts out Chinese Democracy before the end of the year, we will give everybody in America a free Dr. Pepper. And then sure enough, they announced that it's coming out. And I remember Dr. Pepper's website crashed for like 2 fucking days because there were so many people going on there trying to claim their coupon because Chinese Democracy got released.
Wow.
That's funny.
And people wonder why we are where we are now.
Yeah. All that Dr. Pepper.
Free Dr. Pepper.
That's great.
I remember we were rehearsing with a band with Dizzy Reed from Guns N' Roses, and we're doing that tour for Hookers and Blow, and it was like every tour we would do, we'd go off, every year. And, hey, when's Chinese Democracy coming? Oh, we're working on it, again, we're working on it. Cool. Okay, great. Next tour, like, hey, when's Chinese Democracy? Oh, they like, we fired somebody and then they recut all their parts, right? Well, we're working on some stuff. Next year, it's like, we're doing percussion overdubs. Like, that was the one. And then the next year, it was like, when's it coming out? And it was the end of the night, and we were drinking, and he just goes, it's never coming out. This kid was so upset. He was so heartbroken.
Hey, well, serve not before it's time. Make sure it's ready. I get it, But it is an interesting thing to consider, like, because back in those days, that's why you see so many Wicked Lester songs start to materialize, where it's like, well, what do we have? That She song was pretty cool,
right?
Yeah, we could make that like a Kiss song.
Because I guess, Dress to Kill had She and Love Her All I Can both pulled from the pre-Kiss stuff. So, yeah.
Ladies in Waiting too was an older track as well. I'm pretty
Oh
sure.
wow!
Really?
Look at Brandon with all the information.
You're fucking
How do you
killing
know
it.
this stuff?
Hey, well,
I go.
I say this stuff very lightly because y'all have called me out on a few things so far. So don't fucking hold that too.
Only
No,
on
he's-
the,
No,
only
'cause
on 43 years.
he's got the Google machine right there.
Yeah.
Well done,
Yeah,
well done,
that's what's
yeah.
happening now.
Yeah.
Kids and their internet.
No, I wish I was Googling, but I've actually just had the live video up on my phone.
If only I had a machine that could give me all these answers, I could.
If only there was some kind of a device.
Yeah, I guess we'll
Maybe
never know.
one day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's impossible to know. Nobody can know.
Yeah, you can't know the future.
Hey,
Left to
my
the
math
ages.
teacher warned me about having a calculator in my pocket at all times. So yeah,
Isn't that
I
a
think
line
that's why
from a
my
Gene
math skills are
Simmons
just
song?
slowly deteriorating.
Especially in your front pocket. Make sure you carry it in your back pocket or something, because the effects of
radiation.
your phone in your exactly in
Yeah.
your front pocket. Well, it is. You
Hey,
got kids now.
I was gonna say I've got a kid. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Get more phones.
I was saying, if that's the case, I want some of my money back right now.
Yeah.
So-
If you're gonna put a phone in your front pocket, you got to put an old one with the make it look good.
well, I keep the phone in the right side, and then the
A
other
rotary,
one is the
an
side.
old rotary phone in your pocket.
That was actually the first lyric on the rough draft for "Take Me." I got a calculator in my pocket.
Grab onto my rocket.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I heard that.
Yeah. Well, that was pretty fun. I actually I always kind of forget how many songs are on that album.
10.
10.
There was 10 on that, because that's actually kind of like everybody's been spending so much time on the Van Halen records, and you're like, there's only 8 songs on this album.
Yeah.
You're always kind of like shocked how short they are back then.
Well, there's 10 songs, but the album is still like right at 30 minutes long. So there's
It's
still
really?
like 28. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Wow.
Because I did the math on that too. But yeah, like Diver Down is like 28 minutes long or something like that.
Really?
And there's
It's
like
fun.
7 covers and 2 guitar solos, and they drop a gong and they call that a song.
I remember my
Hey,
dad
wait,
buying, like,
Alex! Don't
Go
join
ahead.
that club now. Don't join that.
Which club?
The Diver Down, the production sucks on Hotter Than Hell, and the White
Yeah.
Album should be
No, I
one
love the
album.
production on Hotter Than Hell, and Diver Down though, compared to like fucking Mean Streets or I'm sorry, Women, or any of their other work. You know what I mean? You had like
Yeah, but-
Hang 'Em High.
Dude, no, I just
No.
can't get on that. Diver Down is one of my favorite Van Halen records.
Little guitars.
Little guitars.
Yes, little
Yeah.
guitars.
Little guitars.
But I want everybody to let go of the original stuff. Like the covers are fucking awesome. Like
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Van
Dancing in the
Halen
Street
covers
is
sound
good.
like Van Halen songs.
They did.
Yeah.
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 Like
well,
Where Have All the Good
where-
Times Gone does not sound any fucking thing like the Kinks version.
Well, isn't
like, I
wasn't
do
the
not
story
wanna live in a
behind that
world-
though that guitar track was written in mind for an original track, and then Dave
that was
came
the
in.
keyboard. That was the keyboard part for Dancing in the Street.
Yeah,
That was
okay.
going to
Heard
be
that
an original Van
yesterday.
Halen song, and they made it. But man, like, I don't know.
Ed
All the,
wasn't happy about
all the
that.
covers sound like Van Halen songs.
I agree.
Yeah,
That's actually really interesting that you bring that up, because I've had this conversation a lot. Like when you're doing a cover song, you kind of have to do either you're going to be really religiously like, we have to get the same keyboard sound.
Which is what I do. I
Yeah.
do faithful shit.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of
In-
my approach.
Yeah. But Van Halen, you really got me as the example, is kind of like they made that song their own.
Pretty
Like,
Woman.
Pretty Woman.
Yeah.
Anything. Yeah.
and Intruder, the intro is great when you go watch the music video in there,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
that's total Van Halen right there.
Agreed.
And
Totally ridiculous. Yeah,
one of
that
my
video is so
favorite
insane.
Eddie solos of all fucking time is "Hang 'Em High." That is a
Yeah,
fucking
it's a
gnarly
great song.
solo.
That's what I'm saying.
And-
Yeah.
Hang 'Em High. Full
Yeah.
And I love that they brought that track out when they were doing the
that's another one. But I mean,
like
think of,
2015 tour.
Hang 'Em High.
Yeah, they did
Yeah.
that on the last tour that they did a few times. Because once I saw videos of that, I was like, "Fuck! Why did I not go to that?" So
It was cool,
Yeah.
man. It was good times for sure. I saw that at the Hollywood Bowl, and it was, in hindsight now, I'm really glad I went.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was
Yeah.
the last fucking Van Halen show ever.
I know.
yeah,
Crazy.
Second to last.
They were supposed to play in Knoxville when I was in high school. It was on the Different Kind of Truth tour, but it was that second leg that they ended up canceling, and they just never came back around. But that was my one time I was actually fully planning on going and seeing Van Halen.
That's why you have to go every single show when it's coming through, because honestly, I mean, well, I probably skip a couple shows, but most of the, the good stuff, because you never know. And our heroes are getting older. It's freaking me out, dude. I'm like, I'm not ready for any of this. It's
I was talking to somebody the other day. Could we have seen that last Kiss show? I can't rule it out.
I know. Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah, it's
which
one of those.
Said.
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing, especially going through what we're going through right now.
Right.
There's going to be a massive traffic jam happening in 2021. I hope, from my lips to God's ears. But I can't wait to be like, oh hey, Jeremy and Matt, we're all in like Louisville together playing a show, because like every band on the road is going to be like, let's go play.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm kind of a little anxious to see how it plays out. Is there's just going to be this whole conglomerate of bands just trying to go out on the road at the same fucking time. So,
well, I think honestly the audience is there for it. I think everybody's ready. Like, no one's going to take this for granted. It's kind of like, because if you would have said last year that, we're going to have to take an entire year off, people would have been like, that'll never happen.
Yeah.
How rock
well,
fans
I think you're going to see some really interesting tours get put together that you don't really see anymore. That, take example in the 90s, that giant tour Metallica and GNR did together. You don't really see two giant, absolutely headlining bands really go out like that together anymore. And I think that's something that you're really going to see a lot more of once everything opens back up.
That was going to happen this year. It was going to be Motley Crue and Def Leppard and Poison and
I love Motley Crue, and I've seen them a couple of times, but I was totally planning on sitting this one out.
That tour was selling really well too. Like, it was doing like arena numbers.
They added 4 dates because
stadiums,
they were all selling out, and because it was basically a fucking festival. Because they had another band on it as well.
Joan Jett was supposed to do something.
Well, but there was a fifth band, Tuck. Yeah, Tuck, and
so here's an interesting story, Brandon. You almost got to see Tuck Smith's very first show ever, because they were opening for us at that Whitesboro, Kentucky gig, and then it started raining and their set got rained out.
Oh, so they were the band that was right on stage.
That was going to be their first show ever.
Wow. Holy shit. That's great. Well, that's not great, but that's a great story. That's fucking unfortunate, but that's
a great story about an unfortunate turn of events.
Yeah,
there you go.
Story of my life.
Right.
It's like the Bible.
Everything's a great story in retrospect, so it doesn't matter.
You live
Great.
through it, sure.
So, to kind of wrap things up here,
is this all just a giant excuse to promote Minefield?
Yes. Now that we've got you all here right now, but where would you guys each personally rank Hotter Than Hell on your Kiss catalog? So
Mike's had this list ready since fucking 9th grade.
It's 1986. I've had this list ready to go. I have actually
go get an old notebook.
I'm waiting for that paper that's like had like wet spots on it, and it's just like
that'd actually be really fun. Now, I've actually flip-flopped over the years between 1 and 2, between Rock and Roll Over and Hotter Than Hell, and it depends on my mood. Right now I'd say Hotter Than Hell is my number 1. Ask me again a year from now, it might be number 2, but either one, to me, you can't go wrong. Either one or 2 for me.
There you go. Wow.
Is that including live albums too?
Let's just say the whole Kiss catalog.
Oh, okay, well then I got to put Kiss Alive in there. Yeah, so I mean, I was excluding the live albums and double platinum and things
because to me those are just as much part as they're as important, if not more important than anything else in Kiss's catalog. So you have to include them.
Then I'll go top 3. How about that?
Okay.
There you go.
No Kiss Alive, you don't.
Right.
Yeah.
I would follow suit. I would say, can you hear me? Am I there?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, Destroyer, Kiss Alive, and then Hotter Than Hell, actually. And I'm surprised because I never thought of that.
Huh. There you go.
You're such a producer-minded, sophisticated. What I've always said about you, very sophisticated taste.
I too have cigars. I'll be.
And then you're a genius. That's clear. I would say the same thing as Mike. Yeah, I mean, if I had to pick one, it's going to be Alive. But Rock and Roll Over was a favorite for years and years and years. But honestly, last couple of years, Hotter Than Hell is like edging right in there. And
I
I
knew
would
I
say
like this
too,
guy.
yeah, but I would say too, it's worth listening to Double Platinum because Mike Stone, who's an amazing producer and engineer, is no longer with us. He remixed the entire catalog. Those are all remixes. And
Right.
all the tracks I think sound better than the originals, but he retained it. And Hotter Than Hell stuff sounds really good on that.
Okay,
that
I didn't know
record.
those were new mixes on Double
Yeah,
Platinum.
no,
I'm
me
gonna have
neither.
to.
That's good.
They remixed the whole thing, and
I'm gonna have to
it's
go
just
back and
it's
listen
just
to
a
that.
little bigger, a little more bottom end, a little more
There's
separation.
different
And when the
versions,
gong
too.
comes on and Hotter Than Hell, it fucking skips over and over and over and over.
He was
The
faithful to
Jeremy
the
Asbrock
original.
mix.
That's right.
Right.
I'll tell you a song that never skipped but always made me nervous that it was skipping when I listened to it on my record player is Love in Chains off the Paul Stanley record. Because that intro, when your record player might have it skips a lot. You hear that intro and it's da-na, 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 and it just,
Right.
I'm always paranoid that I think my record's skipping, and then now that I've heard the song 1,000 times, I'm like, no, that's just the way it's supposed to sound. So.
I literally took
Damn it.
3 copies of Wish You Were Here back to the part where it sounds like your stereo blows up.
Oh, yeah.
Where it goes. I'm like, fuck, it happened again. I was little. I didn't say fuck. I probably said fuck.
He's 4 years old standing there in the living room. Fuck.
Yeah, this is some bullshit, Mom. And I took the one back and I took the second one back, and then I talked to the guy who was obviously like old at 17, meaning a grown up. Ooh, let's talk to the grown up. You're talking to a grown up. Don't blow it. And right. How, this one spot record after thinking like I know shit, right? Well, it's supposed to do that, kid.
Yeah. That's how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's how it goes. Okay, thanks, man. Scarred me to this day. That's why I mention it.
That's so cool that you were like that concerned. Like most of us would just be like, oh, well, that's how, you're like, there's something wrong with this.
I thought it was the record because then I did have the presence of mind to be like, all right, well, get Aerosmith Rocks or whatever. I was, and well, no, it works there. How come my stereo only doesn't work on that one part of that album?
On every version of that song. It's too hard for me to really, honestly, whenever we have these conversations, pick your top 3 favorite Kiss albums. That's fucking impossible for me, dude. Because there was a period of my life where I would have sworn up and down that Destroyer was the best album. You know what I mean? Like just for like a certain period of my life. Now I go, no, it's not to me. It's not even top 5 for me, Destroyer now. But it's just after. It's really from years and years.
I wouldn't put Destroyer in my top 5. And that was the first one I heard. First one I heard, ironically, was Destroyer, but I would not put that in my top 5.
Only because a lot of us will discuss how Rock and Roll Over or Dress to Kill so much sounds more like who they actually are. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And Destroyer Destroyer's brilliant, and there's some amazing classic songs that they will always, even there, that's got a lot of like deep cuts like Flaming Youth or Sweet Pain. That would never get performed live, but would still be considered.
Flaming Youth is one of my favorite Paul songs. So I'm not taking anything away from that album, but if I'm ranking them, Destroyer is not going to be in that top 5 for me.
I will say Hotter Than Hell would probably remain in a consistent top 5 for me. Like if I had to kind of like, and I think that there's a certain amount of like, like all of us have listened to these songs ad nauseum to the point that, you go through periods where you won't listen to one for a long time because you just listen to the hell out of it. You know what I mean? And then, but I always find Hotter Than Hell is always refreshing, no matter what, even though it sounds crazy and spongy and kind of whatever. There's something about that really, and I think it's also a nostalgia thing of having listened to it as a young kid and the things that remind you of, that awesome bike I owned back then, or whatever, and that whole thing, it's like, it's so much is tied into the music that is so much more than just songs. It's memories. It's all that tactile type stuff. So I would definitely put it top 5, revolving somewhere 1 through 5 at any given moment. Otherwise, I'm the guy who still goes like, I'll throw on Dynasty right now. I don't. It's like, I wouldn't say it's top 5, but it happens. Like it seems to go through phases where I like can't stop listening to this one record, and then it'll get replaced by something else.
And Dynasty, the thing that kind of blows my mind about that album is it was recorded. That was the first album they came back and did after the solo albums. And when you listen to Peter's solo album, I feel like any of those songs would have fit in really well on Dynasty. And it just always kind of blew my mind that he wasn't more, it kind of blew my mind that he wasn't more involved on that, considering how in line that was with kind of the music that Peter was into.
It was a very strange thing. They brought in the producer from the Peter Criss solo album and then immediately replaced Peter Criss. It was very, very
so
strange.
you had to believe the guy. No, don't use him. Believe me. Wait a minute. I introduced you guys.
Yeah. But I always thought that was, to me, it's like, again, these are the kind of things at that age. I would never have been able to say there's something different about this record. That's not Peter Criss. I never would have been able to say that. Now, in retrospect, you go, it's so blatantly obvious, but, so to me, it's very difficult to talk about top five. It would probably be very much in those first 5-6 albums would always remain somewhere in that area in just revolving orders constantly. That's the most non-committal answer I can give.
Nice.
Jeremy?
I'm going to go even less committal than you. I don't do top whatever.
There you
I'm
go.
terrible at doing that.
Where's Diver Down fit in there with the White Album?
Their existence is warranted.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
Man, any of those kind of bands like Van Halen, Beatles, Kiss, like any of my really favorite bands, I can't pick favorites. Like all of their records kind of mean the same amount to me, especially the first, the original Kiss first albums, and then the first 6 Van Halen records, and
but there's often a thing about there's one thing about the original stuff, and then there's also the ones that you first heard are very special. Like to me, when this whole Van Halen chapter that we're on, Women and Children First has such a special place for me because it was the first one I bought with my money. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, I was aware of the first 2 albums, but I was still so young. It was kind of like, like Eruption to me did not sound like a guitar. We couldn't even put into words what was going on, But I bought Women and Children First, and it just had such an impact on me that to this day, it will always be the record. Fair warning, because it was the next one. And the first
84 was my first one, and my second one was Diver Down. And that's why Diver Down will always be fucking awesome to me, because I don't know, it was a Van Halen record to me. I didn't know all of those cover songs.
It's the same conversation about Kiss, because there was all that kind of like, like we were just kids, and it was the new Kiss record, and it was the law. You went and bought the new Kiss record, and you fucking loved it. It was like we never sat around discussing, like, I'm not sure about the snare drum sound. Like, what about that? We didn't talk about that so much later. You know what I mean?
As far as like ranking them, I think it definitely kind of starts like once I get out of my personal like top 2 or 3, they all kind of are equal, like Jeremy's saying to me after that. But I can definitely narrow it down to like a select few being like my 2 or 3 favorite ones. So for me, Harder Than Hell is at the top of my list anytime.
What are the top 3 you're talking about?
Man, and it's going to be really funny because I gave Jeremy shit about this back when he did the Izzy Presley Summit a month or 2 ago. So, they were doing Creatures vs. Revenge. And I texted Jeremy immediately as that podcast was over, and I was like, "Creatures is disappointed in you." And then for the next month, man, I bought a German copy of Revenge on vinyl, and I got the CD, and I just kind of religiously listened to that. And I honestly might say that Revenge might be really high up there on my.
And look, dude, I walked into that podcast ready to argue Creatures.
Wow.
And what's funny about that particular podcast is everybody who walked in with this album they were going to argue walked away arguing the other album.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And for me, I'll take Lick It Up over both of them.
That podcast made me realize.
I love Lick It Up, yeah.
Like I always thought Revenge was Kiss's strongest album without makeup, but, I really realized how strong it was when I was completely prepared to argue Creatures over it. And then
Well, those are their last two great albums, I feel. Anyway,
I think that the interesting thing, that the parallel between those two records, I think, is it seems like those are times when Kiss was again trying to prove themselves. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
they
like-
both
like-
let off with Gene songs as a single.
that's true too. Yeah, the fact that Creatures was kind of like coming back from a wild sabbatical, and then not that Revenge was, you know, they were successful all those years, but it was kind of like they'd found themselves again. Like Gene especially had found himself.
Yeah.
And he showed up and he brought quality work.
I remember seeing the Unholy video on Headbangers Ball and being like, he's back. Gene back, you know?
Yeah. I remember like Paul Stanley's playing the Iceman and you're like, dude, what is going on? You're like, these guys are on fire. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think another thread on
what
those
a way
two
to start
records
the album.
too. Oh yeah. Well, I think the another thread on those two records is Vinnie Vincent's writing.
Absolutely.
True.
And yeah, that's and I really hope, Mike, that you get that interview talking about the Revenge era, because that's one thing that's always fascinated me is I really want to know that whole process with Vinny being involved with Revenge.
No, if it doesn't happen, Brandon, it won't be from a lack of trying.
It won't be your fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, there's a toughness to Vinny's writing. He's a very good writer, but it's tough and it works with Kiss. And he brought out something on Creatures, and I think he even some of the stuff on Lick It Up.
He had 3 rights on that, I think. It was
on Creatures, right?
On Revenge. He had Unholy, I Just Wanna, and Heart of Chrome. Did he have a?
You got it.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Bruce's playing on Revenge is next level.
Agreed.
Too. Bruce.
So good. Yeah.
Best playing he ever did.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah. Is that Jeremy? Jeremy, I'm just waiting for you to pick up a banjo. It's like the blues. You're like,
hey, can you hear the train right now?
Oh yeah.
Get the harmonica.
That's straight up country, son.
Yeah, my earbuds died, so
Oh, fair enough.
peripheral noise.
It was your earbuds were long enough for Hotter Than Hell.
That's right.
You didn't expect all this Diver Down talk to have to come.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Didn't budget my electricity.
Well,
Well,
cool.
gentlemen,
This
that was a blast.
this
What's
has
the
been a
next
lot of
one going to
fun.
be?
I don't know. We'll
Diver Down.
figure it out. Yeah.
Diver Down.
Cool. Yeah.
White Out.
Song for song, Diver Down. White Out.
Starting right now. Welcome to the show, everybody.
Cards next time.
Well, cool.
Nice.
Is there anything y'all wanna plug before we get out of here?
I don't know. What?
Wow,
we
I
should
literally
probably-
heard crickets, literally.
Yeah.
It's from the the cabin.
It's because you hear from my microphone right now.
I think the Minefield record is the best thing to talk about because we're all involved.
Yeah,
Even Mike.
yeah.
Mike doesn't know this yet, but Mike's singing a track on it.
No, you want to sell albums. You don't want me to sing on. Trust me.
You're doing our version of Coming Home.
Oh, no, you don't want me singing. Trust me. I'll play like tambourine or something. That's cool. But you don't
Hey, it's
want me-
okay, Mike. They're letting me sing on the record, so it could. Yeah.
My friends say I invent notes that don't exist when I sing. So.
We're gonna have a picture of Alex sitting in Mike's lap on the back of the album cover
Nice.
with Mike's eyes.
Sure, fuck it,
blocked
let's
out.
do it, bro.
We can recreate one of these pictures off the back of Hotter Than Hell with Mike and
There you
Alex.
go.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
Bound
Now
to
you're
sell some
talking.
copies.
Who's wearing the pasties? Me or you?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
I'm working my fire breathing. Sorry, guys.
Always a bridesmaid.
Well, cool. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and end the Facebook Live, and then we can say goodbye off camera real quick if you guys want to. So,
Sounds cool.
so long to everybody on Facebook. Thanks for hanging
Bye,
out.
everyone.
It's
Thanks.
been a lot of fun.
People.
Big
Yep.
love.
This is it. We'll do a.
All right.
Don't you feel like this is like, I keep saying, can we turn this